I wanted to start off and kind of ask you about, I guess, in your career, like you've been in obviously Westworld and Source Code and the Hunger Games. I mean, do you have an affinity with kind of science fiction and fantasy, or is it just a case of just the roles you've been offered that you've been kind of drawn to them?
Yeah, it's I'm drawn to interesting story, and I really just, for the most part, well, there are a number of factors that that I weigh in when I decide on a role, but it's largely what pops off the page at me. Source Code, for example, was just a really fascinating script. And I was also excited to work with Duncan, whom I'd known for many years. I'd known him through his dad, um, when he was a teenager.
Was that from Basquiat, was it?
Yeah, yeah, that's when we first met. So there are a number of factors, but primarily it was this, really interesting script. And science fiction allows for exploration of ideas and mythology, and with Westworld, the technology that we're all, kind of merging ourselves with now. So there are a lot of things to play with, that are interesting and relevant. And uh, with with What If, the mythology that is explored in the MCU is has captured the imagination of our little planet here.
Yeah.
And I think there's, as I think about it, there's I think there are interesting reasons for that. One, the dynamism of the storytelling, and the dynamism of these worlds that are explored. But I also think there's something about the mythology that's deeply important to people, particularly to young people. I think the ways in which they're able to kind of lay their trust onto these characters, whether they be heroes or villains, there's an understanding of who they are, and there is a trust that can be connected to these stories and to these characters that can't necessarily be trusted to the world outside of the cinema. Um,
Yeah.
uh, and so there's something, within this sci-fi window. There's something very powerful that happens for fans, and something meaningful that they can connect with. So that's a great place to play if you're an actor. And it also, I think, is part of the reason that fans are so passionate about who's playing these roles and who becomes the caretaker of these stories, because they do have so much invested in them, and so much uh, that they rely on, particularly in an uncertain world. So, yeah, yes, it's sci-fi, but inside sci-fi is something deeply human too, and that's always been the case. So, yeah, I don't know if it's a preference for me. I kind of bounce all over the place, but I do enjoy the spectacle and the narratives that we can find inside this genre.
Yeah. I know you played like a narrator before, obviously, and like bringing the noise, bringing the funk. I know.
Did you do
I
that?
was just I was doing my research, and I
Oh,
found you did Juno and the
that's right.
Baycock as well. Who
That's
did you play
exactly right.
actually in Juno and the Baycock? Actually, just out of
Who
curiosity.
was I? I was Jerry Devine.
Oh,
Yeah,
nice.
yeah. I actually did
Good
that. Oh
role.
God, that's a great role. That was oh my God, that was 1992 or something like that. In
Yeah.
fact, the director of that production was a Dubliner, Joe Dowling, who used to run the Abbey Theater
Yeah.
there, and
That's
then
right. Yeah.
That was the first time he and I worked together. It was on Juno and the Paycock. And then we subsequently did She Stoops to Conquer. And then he gave me a role, my first bit of Shakespeare in
Julius Caesar, wasn't it?
in Othello,
Oh,
with Raul Julia and Chris Walken in Central Park. And then after that, he and I we did Midsummer Night's Dream together. I played Puck. So Joe was a very important and deeply trusted mentor of mine early in my career. So
yeah.
I owe Dublin that.
But it's yeah, just I mean, it's funny. I just in thinking of I suppose of kind of Shakespeare and I guess mythology as well that you were kind of talking about. You have the thing of the Greek chorus, and obviously the Watcher is the Greek chorus of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. He is the one who watches. I mean, was that kind of playing in your mind when you were reading the narration, or was it just kind of an I sort of in the ether?
Yeah, that was part of it, but he is chorus in some ways, but he's also audience too. Maybe the
Mm.
chorus is to some degree audience as well, but he's the populace, the fan populace, and he's in size, he's the biggest, and maybe in passion, as passionate as Marvel fans are. The Watcher may be he may be at the top of the heap when it comes to that, and so I think like fans, he feels this need for these stories, and in some ways, he finds himself um, through these characters and through the mythology that without them he has no purpose. And maybe the old kind of quantum theory that things behave only when they're observed, or they change when they're observed. Maybe, I mean, he is a part of maybe there's something about that relationship between him and observing and the observed and being observed that brings all of this to life in some way. So yeah, there's a lot of epic kind of stuff that he represents, and so it was good fun to try to find a voice that was reflective of all that.
Yeah, because like it was funny because I was listening when I watched like the first three episodes of it, and I mean I know your voice is naturally deep, but at the same time I was like, God, it sounds like if this was like you know 30, 40 years ago or something like that, it would have been James Earl Jones who would have
Mm,
been doing
mm,
this. Like,
mm.
I mean, I suppose like I always kind of wonder about this when you're doing kind of like I suppose like radio plays or something like this narration. I mean, do you have less kind of awareness, if that makes sense? Because I know, like, if you're on stage or if you're acting, you're aware of, the camera crew and you're aware of, the director and you're aware of the actor in front of you. Whereas if it's you in a booth, do you kind of lose kind of sense of what you're doing and do you just kind of give the performance, or how does it change any the idea of narration and the idea of like an audio play? Does that change anything in your performance?
Yeah, well, in this case, I was in a booth, or I was in my closet in my house back in Brooklyn, like in the dark, computer set up, mic set up, and the underwear drawer next to me, for to dampen things. Yeah, it was and so I kind of sit there. It's when I close my closet door, the lights go out. So it's kind of focusing. What I really zone in on are the sound that's coming through my ears, through the headphones. And I enjoy doing voice work because it is disembodied, but you get to kind of just play all of the details and all of the nuance of the character just through that one instrument. So I kind of dig it too. There's a lot that you can do. It kind of goes back a little bit to theater to theater work, which is which the voice is really kind of the primary instrument. And so here, I mean, clearly it's that. So I kind of fall back on all that stuff, but at the same time, try to drive it through, a microphone in a way that uses the capacity of the microphone to pick up every detail. So yeah, I dig it. It's really like being in a recording session. I mean, it is that, but it's like being in a recording session in a way that a musician might be. I just kind of come in there and try to, blow that horn, in the way that makes sense for the story and the character, and play the music that's on the page.
Yeah. Do you, I mean, and I know for all actors, this can be a kind of a touchy subject, but I mean, have there been any roles where you've had a kind of a what if situation with, or have there been any roles where you've kind of, it came down to you and another person, and anything that you'd be willing to share, I guess?
Oh, a role that I didn't get?
Yeah, as in like it was you and another person kind of thing, and it was like, what if you had done it, like, I guess. And I know that's a touchy subject with actors, and that's why
there's one that stands out. I try to, let that stuff live in the past, but there is one that was pretty interesting. And I actually fired my agent at the time. This is many, many years ago. I was doing Angels in America on Broadway, and I had read for a part, and went really well. And then I read with the actor who was playing, I was going to be playing opposite, who is a name we all know and love. And we just killed it together. And then I was in New York, obviously. They came back to LA, and I was doing the play. And the last I heard, I was supposed to be coming out here to read once more, and bring it home. And I'm literally waiting for, the flight itinerary to arrive in a few days. And I check in with my agent. I'm like, hey, did you, did we get any flight, details on for me going out? They said, oh, we talked to the producers of Angels, and they wouldn't let you out for the 2 weeks that are needed to do the thing, or however many, 3 weeks or whatever it was. And so we passed. And I was like, you did what? Jesus. You did. Yeah. And it's how should I say without,
it still stings, does it?
Nah. I mean, it's, that's long since healed, but and I have now like a 25 plus year relationship with my agent, my new agent. But it's a role that it was a really cool role. I only say that it was played in the end by someone who's also in the MCU.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to put my thinking cap on and think about that for the rest of the day. Jeffrey Wright, thanks so much.
Yeah, cool, man. Thank you, Brian.
Cool.
Be good.
Thank you.
Journey to face the unknown and ponder the question,